Welcome to this explainer on the history of ancient state formation and urbanization. Imagine a world where the vast majority of humanity lived in small, quiet, wandering tribes. Now, fast forward a few centuries and picture colossal, bustling empires stretching across the horizon. We're talking massive armies, highly specialized workers, and immense wealth. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because understanding how human societies originally organized themselves, well, it actually gives us the ultimate blueprint for how our modern world operates today. So let's get right into it.
Let's jump right in by asking the core puzzle from our source text. How exactly did these tiny, scattered, ancient settlements evolve into massive, powerful empires? I mean, it obviously didn't happen overnight, right? And it certainly wasn't an accident. It required a very specific chain of events. Basically, it took a perfect storm of geography, economics, and human ingenuity all coming together at exactly the right time.
To figure this out, here is our roadmap for today. 1. The start of ancient urbanization. 2. The economy and the rise of states. 3. The Mahajanapadas and republics. 4. The success of the Magadha Empire. And 5. Important points for exams. All right, part 1, start of ancient urbanization, the foundations of growth. The crucial starting point here is making sure we clearly define our terms. You see, urbanization isn't just about building more houses. It's actually a massive, fundamental shift involving huge population booms, business expansion, and specialized industries. Think about the incredible sensory shift this created for the people living through it. A society goes from quiet, isolated farming hamlets where every single person is just growing food to survive to these noisy, crowded, thriving hubs. Suddenly, people have distinct, specialized jobs. You've got weavers, potters, administrators. That profound foundational transformation, that is the true dawn of urbanization. Now, let's walk through the exact domino effect that makes this whole thing possible. It always starts with agriculture. When a farmer grows more than their family can eat, that leftover grain essentially becomes currency. That surplus means not everyone has to be a farmer anymore. And that right there kickstarts commerce and trade. The trade then provides the wealth to fund artisans and craftspeople. Naturally, with more abundant food and growing wealth, you get a massive population boom. Ultimately, you just have to build cities to hold all those people and contain all their new, specialized activities. You simply cannot have city development without that initial agricultural surplus to get the ball rolling.
This chain reaction was particularly powerful in the Ganges Valley. So, what made this specific region so special? Well, it was the combination of incredibly fertile soil and the revolutionary introduction of new iron tools. Before iron, clearing the thick, root-choked soil of ancient forests with older bronze or wooden tools was, frankly, agonizingly slow. It was backbreaking work. Iron plows were essentially the ultimate technological disruptor of the ancient world. They could turn that tough earth so much more effectively, which absolutely supercharged agricultural production and set that entire domino effect we just talked about into rapid motion.
But here is the million-dollar question. Did building these cities only change where people slept, or did it alter the very fabric of power itself? It is so easy to think of cities as just places with more buildings. But the reality is that gathering all these resources, people, and wealth into centralized locations completely transformed administration, politics, and the actual concept of what a state is.
Which brings us to part 2, economy and rise of states, funding the future.
The urbanization engine created these central hubs for merchants and artisans. With all this regional exchange of goods happening in one place, it became much easier for a central authority to step in and say, hey, we are going to tax this. Generating that crucial tax revenue is the absolute secret ingredient here. It's actually exactly like modern governance today. Think about it. A state cannot build roads, fund armies, or maintain order without a unified tax base. Urbanization was essentially the ultimate cash cow for early rulers. It provided the steady, reliable income that these newly forming states desperately needed to survive and expand their borders. The key takeaway? Economic growth didn't just happen alongside the state, it quite literally paid for the state.
Let's move on to part 3, Mahajanapadas and republics, political evolution.
As these ancient regions developed and grew richer, they evolved into what historians call the Mahajanapadas. Maha translates to great, and these were the great realms, 16 powerful oligarchies and monarchies that totally dominated ancient India. We actually see two distinct systems emerge to handle all this new urban complexity. On one side, we have traditional monarchies, ruled by a single, powerful sovereign holding tightly centralized control.
Contrasted against this were early republics, governed not by one king, but by collective assemblies. It's fascinating because it shows us that even thousands of years ago, human beings were actively experimenting with entirely different ways to organize power and govern massive populations.
And that leads us to part 4, Success of the Magadha Empire, the ultimate case study. Let's look at exactly why the Magadha Empire triumphed over all the other great realms to become a massive ancient superpower. In short, Magadha completely won the geographic lottery. Think back to our domino effect from earlier. Magadha had immense agricultural output thanks to exceptionally fertile land and abundant water. But crucially, they sat right on top of incredibly rich mineral resources. Picture glowing ancient forges constantly turning out iron. This meant they had better farm tools and much stronger weapons than any of their rivals. Add to that the natural river routes, which basically acted like bustling ancient highways for lucrative trade and for rapidly moving troops, and you have an absolute, unstoppable formula for success.
The reality of history is perfectly captured by this idea. A state's power depends on geography, agriculture, and economy, not just its army. It is so easy to look back at ancient empires and think, well, whoever had the biggest swords won. But Magadha's dominance was an economic and logistical victory long before it was a military one. An army has to be fed, equipped, and transported, right? Magadha's incredible geography and economy allowed them to do all of that infinitely better than anyone else in the region.
Finally, part 5, important points for exams, core takeaways.
For those of you studying this material, if you want to truly master this topic, here is exactly what you need to lock into your memory. First, understand the 5-step mechanics of ancient urbanization, how that initial surplus in agriculture creates a domino effect, leading straight to city development. Second, grasp how that urbanization directly fueled economic development by creating the taxable wealth that allowed states to even exist in the first place. And finally, be ready to recount the exact geographical and economic advantages, the abundant iron, the river highways, the super fertile soil that allowed Magadha to rise above the rest as the dominant superpower of its time.
We are going to wrap up today's explainer with this final thought. We have seen exactly how fertile soil and iron built one of the greatest ancient empires in human history. So, ask yourself, if natural resources dictated the map then, how much of our modern political map is still fundamentally dictated by geography today? I mean, instead of fertile soil and iron, we have oil reserves, access to international shipping lanes, and the rare earth minerals required for our microchips. Are the ancient rules of the Magadha Empire still secretly dictating global superpowers today? It's a fascinating question to ponder. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.